Well, for those who deny that there's racism in the country, there is a different story that was reported on back in November of 2011, and it involved a 68-year-old African-American Marine vet by the name of Kenneth Chamberlain. So he was at home in White Plains, New York, and his life alert came on, it's a medical alarm pendant, and it went off accidentally. Now, police responded to the scene. But he told them, he's like, I'm okay, everything's fine, it was an accident, you guys can leave. But the cops refused to leave. In fact, they remained there and started calling him, racial slurs. And basically it escalated to the point where they barged into the home and they took out a .40 caliber weapon and shot him twice until he was dead.
Now, understand the absurdity of this, because they came to help him. His medical alert went off. There's nobody calling in a crime. There's no emergency there's no emergency other than the fact that they found a black person and needed to mess with them in some way. I mean, they used the N-word, so you begin to get a sense of where their head was at, right? But I mean, why would you go when a medical device goes off and think, I gotta break down this guy's door, I gotta tase him, and then I gotta shoot him, right? Like, why does that even occur to you? And then think about this, again, for the racism deniers, as Anna just called them. Do you think that if it was a white person in Beverly Hills, that the cops would have gone to respond to a medical alert, and a guy says, hey, I'm okay, you can go back home. And they go, oh yeah, we're gonna break down your front door in Beverly Hills, and we're gonna come, and the guy says, okay, I'm all right, it was a medical thing, it went off by accident, I'm fine. And then they tase him, and then they shoot him.
Yeah.
A white guy in Beverly Hills. What do you think the chance of that ever happening is? I'm gonna put it at negative 98%, okay? It's beyond inconceivable that would happen.
What's interesting about this story is, I love that you mentioned the taser, something that I missed. So they did have a taser, and that device actually has a recorder on it, right? And the device recorded the police officer calling Chamberlain the N-word. Okay.
Right, and his medical alert, once it had gone off, recorded for like nearly an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, and so they have it all on tape. And so, what's happening to the cops?
Absolutely nothing. The police department refuses to release the name of the police officers who responded to the life alert. So this, the Trayvon Martin story is an important story because I think it really brings up a huge issue we have in the country. The story itself is tragic, and you want justice for Trayvon Martin and his family. But at the same time, what I just told you guys about Chamberlain is something that happens on a regular basis in the country. Jayar brought up a different story last week about a woman who went into the hospital. She was a homeless woman. She's black. She needed medical attention immediately. They immediately brushed her off. They sent her to jail because she refused to leave. She had a blood clot in her leg that traveled to her lung, and she died while in jail. Okay, so these kinds of stories happen all the time. And people like Liz Trotta are destructive because they deny the mistreatment of blacks in this country.
We had covered the story of a baseball player's son in a fancy part of town, for lack of a better word, and he had pulled up in his car in his driveway, and the cops had shot him. Even though his mom had come out and said, out of the house, told the cops, he's my son, I live here. They shot him anyway. Okay. Now, Jayar just looked into that. What happened to those cops? They must have gotten the full brunt of the law, right?
Acquitted. But that's the thing, and it was based in. They said the police acted in accordance in the way that they were trained to, because they said looks like he's reaching for something in his jacket or his waistband, something around that area, and they said with that motion, they were trained to believe that he was pulling something out. So it was on that basis.
No, but think about it this way: they would have never gotten to that point if they hadn't pulled him over for being black in that neighborhood, in that particular case, right? Like, a white guy doesn't get into that trouble. He doesn't get into, I'm reaching for my license and they accidentally shoot me, because they didn't pull him over in the first place. They think this is a white neighborhood, and that's it, right? We're done with that story. If it's a white guy in Beverly Hills, as an example, right? They don't break down his door and tase him in the first place, so that when his medical alert goes off, that's why I think this case is so unbelievably egregious. So, they're not in there thinking, oh, well, he reached for something, so I had to shoot him dead. Mm-hmm. So it's part of how the infrastructure, unfortunately, of this country, and it's not to say all people, it's not even to say a majority of white people or a majority of cops. Unfortunately, though, some of the cops have a system where they assume that the black guy did it. Even if he's got a medical condition, they're like, he must be guilty of something. We had to break down his door. He was an N-word. And we had to shoot him. And then you can't get any justice. And that's what drives people crazy.